Hello and welcome to another vlog by Pale Blue Thoughts. We had earlier made a video on what is good science and what is pseudoscience. If you haven't watched it, please click on the card which you see above. In this video, we will see what is pseudoscience in detail and address another common fallacy, or rather a fantasy which is prevalent these days. Rosy retrospection. What is pseudoscience and how can we know the difference between actual science and pseudoscience? We have touched upon science earlier, so we will review pseudoscience in detail here.
Pseudoscience consists of statements, beliefs, or practices that are claimed to be both scientific and factual, but are in fact incompatible with the scientific method. So why do people who propagate these pseudoscience claim that their ideas or notions are scientific? That's because they know that if they stand separately from science, people won't believe it. People in general have accepted that science is the right way of thinking or the right way to obtain knowledge. So if someone were to say that their notions are not scientific, there won't be any takers. So they are forced to state that their views, beliefs, or practices are scientific. This they do with such an obstinacy, and in their efforts to make their unscientific views as scientific, they go to extreme levels of absurdness. However, since they won't have approached it with a scientific method, a person with a good scientific temper can spot the flaws upon scrutiny.
The term pseudoscience can be considered as derogatory because it suggests something is being presented as science inaccurately or even deceptively. Distinguishing scientific facts and theories from pseudoscientific beliefs, such as those found in astrology, alternative medicine, occult, and religious belief, creationism, etc., is part of science education and scientific literacy. Pseudoscience can be harmful. For example, pseudoscientific anti-vaccine activism and promotion of homeopathic remedies as alternative disease treatments can result in people foregoing important medical treatment and ending up damaging their own and others' lives.
The practitioners of pseudoscientific claims asserts that its views are scientific and that they all are established facts. This is in fact a very big lie in all cases. We have said this before. If something can be proved using the scientific method, then it becomes part of science and will cease to be called as pseudoscience. We will give you an example. Alchemy is a branch of pseudoscience that existed earlier. Simply put, it is the ability to convert other metals into gold. Even Isaac Newton was a great practitioner of this. However, today's branch of science that we call chemistry actually has its roots from alchemy. When scientific methods were employed in alchemy, it became a science called chemistry. Pseudoscience is differentiated from science because although it claims to be science, pseudoscience does not adhere to the accepted scientific standards such as the scientific method, falsifiability, and universality.
We have already mentioned what is the scientific method in our very first video, and also falsifiability through the Dragon in the Garage by Carl Sagan and universality in our third video. So we won't explain it here. So what are some important indicators of pseudoscience? Use of vague, exaggerated, or untestable claims. For example, it is quite an exaggerated claim that planets which are millions of kilometers away from us can influence our lives, our education, our marriage, our emotions, etc. Such a claim is vague because it doesn't tell you anything about how this influence works. It is most definite, exaggerated, and of course it is untestable. People, in order to make it appear scientific, use scientific sounding jargon like cosmic energy and quantum entanglement in order to confuse people and make them believe in them. An example of this would be the long-standing hoax which refers to water by rarely used formal name dihydrogen monoxide and then describes it as the main constituent in the most poisonous solutions to show how easily general public can be misled.
We won't like to pick on astrology just yet. However, we use this example to show you how vague pseudoscientific claims generally are, how they don't consider operational definitions like duration, quantity, extension in space, chemical composition, etc. They also do not have any boundaries. There is also a lack of effective controls such as placebo and double-blind when it comes to its testing. This is mainly true in the case of alternative medicine. Also, many of these claims contradict the accepted and proven laws of physics and chemistry. When questioned, they simply say that science has not grown to understand it as yet.
Falsifiability is a major point where all pseudoscience stumbles. If someone says that they had a vision of God in their dream, how can someone falsify it? You cannot conduct an experiment to prove that wrong. And then they assert that since it cannot be proven false, it must be true. This is called argument from ignorance. Quoting from experience is another facet of all pseudoscience. They don't believe in physical evidences. All of their evidences exist in their minds. These testimonial or anecdotal evidences of personal experience mean nothing to prove something right. Just because I felt so doesn't mean that others should feel the same way. They often present data that support their claims and reject what conflicts with their claims. This is called as cherry picking. For example, you are sent out to pick cherries from a garden. Which cherries would you pick? Obviously the best ones. You wouldn't pick the ones which are rotten, eaten by birds, or a cherry which has a worm in it. However, does this represent the true picture? No, it doesn't. Your garden contains good as well as bad cherries. However, you will pick only the good ones and showcase it as being the best cherries, conveniently ignoring the bad ones.
Yet another indicator is the reverse burden of proof. If you criticize a pseudoscientific claim, then the person who made the claim would ask you to prove it wrong instead of proving his part first. For example, ask anyone who believes in any supernatural claim. Let's take the easiest one. Is there a God? Immediately the answer would be yes, there is a God. If you contest that, the next retort would be prove that a God is not there. In such scenarios, a person with scientific temper should politely ask to prove the existence first. Science always does that. The burden of proof in science is always on the claimant. The person making the claim has to prove that it is true.
The next indicator is lack of openness to testing by other experts. The pseudoscience believers would never let their ideas be tested in an open field like science does. All science hypotheses and theories undergo rigorous peer reviews and appear in reputed science journals. Pseudoscience, on the other hand, publish these claims on unknown publications, their own publications, or on Facebook and WhatsApp.
Another indicator is personalization of issues. If someone criticizes, let's say a religion for instance, supporters suddenly tend to identify their critics as enemies. They start attacking the motives, character, morality, or competence of anyone who questions their claim. If you oppose a pseudoscience, they come out with all arms and ammunition to defend their faith. They also assert that it is a conspiracy on the scientific community to suppress their results or to defame them. An example is the so-called medicine mafia and the claims by anti-vaccine proponents that Bill Gates is out to enslave the world using the vaccines. People with a scientific temper, on the other hand, will put forth their claims based on reason and logic instead of sticks and stones. You would never see people in the scientific community coming out in protests against anti-science, but you will see people out on streets protecting their faiths and beliefs. Yes, they may post comments on Facebook or on social media, or may resort to harmless and humorous trolls. Some may go on to make YouTube videos. That's it. Anyways, anyone who criticizes anything in India these days are given a cute pet name: Deshdrohis.
People say science makes mistakes and then corrects them. Not always. Science always finds better solutions than we currently have. If you try to point out the unscientific parts in their arguments, they turn towards the yesteryears and say that our sages or our rishis and munis found these and these have been already mentioned in their sacred texts. Now, we have previously mentioned that knowledge of humans have always been limited to the knowledge that was available at a particular time in the history. Let's say 25 years ago, if I mentioned a smartphone, would you have any clue about it? Or let's say during your parents' childhood, if anyone mentioned television, would they have understood? So to say that the Rishio sapiens had futuristic vision, which is just another fallacy. It is called rosy retrospection. Let's look at that now.
Rosy retrospection is the tendency to remember and recollect events more favorably than when they occurred. It is related to the popular idiom to see through the rose-colored glasses. People often talk about the good old days and say that those were the best times. But were they? Take a look some 20 years back. Did we have all the facilities that we have today? Go a bit further. Think of the times when we did not have enough food to eat, the times when electricity and telephones were a luxury. So as we go further and further back, we see that life wasn't as rosy as it is today. So you see, we are in a much better situation than our forefathers. Yet, we have this urge to look back at the past with a biased mentality. Mind you, this is different from nostalgia, which is also a sentimental longing or an affection to the past. Rosy retrospection is a biased perception of the yesteryears, whereas nostalgia is not biased.
The same is the case with people who say that we had much developed technology in our olden days. They quote from the various sacred texts and books and say that ancient people had the wisdom and the knowledge that we know today. They state the knowledge of astronomy and medicine systems and speak in high volumes about the knowledge of the ancient. We have already told you how the knowledge of a society is with the level of the knowledge present in the society. The ancients might have known that they can read the sky and tell the time, which we had already told you is definitely a very significant achievement. However, they had no clue how far these objects were and what they comprised of. So they wove mythical stories around it. As for them, they were mysterious. However, today we know the answers to almost all of these questions. Now the same people are trying their level best to fit the current knowledge into their myths by putting them through rationalization factories, saying that what we found out today was already foretold in those books. They are trying to make them wear the scientific gown, so to speak, to justify the incorrect knowledge.
This fallacy is quite popular in India and in places where there is a strong connect with their traditions. We aim to take you back to the past in order to show you how rosy retrospection can clog your mind and lead to incorrect notions being planted in your mind about the past. So please join us in our series where we try to debunk some ancient sciences. If you like this video, please do hit the like button and the subscriber button next to it. If you have any comments or suggestions, feel free to use the comment section to record the same. Until next time,